can't tell you how many memes and jokes I've seen on social media lately about this year is just, we're over it. Do we really need to write off 2020? Before you move on, take a look at this video. How's it going, Reinventors? My name is Amelia. This is Reinventing You, the channel where you can be inspired to take your own reinventing journey no matter what the year. I know a lot of us have said, oh, 2020, I'm so over it. But there are still things that we can do to recapture this year, to take advantage of this year, to think about what we can still do with the 6 months we have left. And yes, we still have 6 months of 2020 to not just get through, but to thrive. So how can we do that in what's left of this year? If this is your first time here on Reinventing You, don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell. That way you'll be notified when I post videos twice a week. If you're already a subscriber, I would love it if you would share this video with somebody else who's maybe feeling a little bit down about 2020. The first thing that you can do is to catalog your fears, which I guess that sounds kind of weird, but you need to write down, you need to really take a look at what you're truly afraid of. What are your fears? How have you dealt with the fears, or how have you not dealt with your fears? How your fears affected you emotionally or even physically, that can happen as well. What are you still trying to deal with right now? Like, you have your fears in your past, how you dealt with them. What are some of the residual effects of that? What are you still grappling with? What do you still need to work on? What are you constantly working on in terms of your fears? So when I say catalog your fears, it's not just listing them, but how are you dealing with or not dealing with? Have you dealt with them in the past? Or even, maybe some past fears that you could say, well, in the past with these fears, I did such and such. But now I have these fears and I haven't gotten anywhere with them or haven't been able to deal with them right now. I say all of this in terms of this year, 2020. So when you're looking at your fears, don't just say, oh, all my fears forever, but what are your fears right now in this moment? And I'm not talking just about cultural, societal, health, pandemic kind of fears, but what are some fears that you've been dealing with since the first of the year? I mean, what are some things that have really, stuck with you? You may have something in January happen and you just got stuck, and even though all this other stuff is going on, you have all these other new fears, you still have that underlying fear or that underlying thing that is stopping you from moving forward. Take note of that. Let's get these things written down, and then we can learn how to recover from them and do the best we can with the year we have. The second thing that you can do is list or think about what are the lessons you've learned in the year 2020. And let me tell you, when I think about the lessons I've learned this year, they are many. So what are the lessons that you have learned this year? The third way to recapture or to take advantage of 2020 is to say, what are some things that I've already reinvented this year, committed to reinventing, or am in the middle of reinventing? I think we tend to not celebrate the things we've done really well. So if you've reinvented yourself in a certain way, here's an example. How many of us have learned how to properly wash our hands this year? Hey, you've reinvented how to wash your hands. How many of us have learned how to work from home or learn how to do Zoom videos? You've reinvented yourself in those terms. So think about those things that you've been able to do. Maybe they were intentional or not. You reinvented yourself in those ways. And some things that you're really working on. Maybe you started off the year and maybe it slowed down, or you kind of in a holding pattern, but you haven't given up. You haven't stopped. You haven't thrown away what you had accomplished. Say if you tried to lose weight, you maybe lost 5-10 pounds. Then we got stuck at home and maybe you didn't lose any more, but you hadn't gained any, or maybe you only gained 2 or 3 pounds. Make that a win. You still lost weight from the first of this year. Now's the time to kind of pick that back up. 2020 isn't over. Continue your weight loss journey. Number 4 is very similar in some ways to number 3, but what new talents have you developed this year? Maybe it is a Zoom video conferencing calls and that kind of thing. Or maybe you've learned something else. Maybe you've learned how to stay at home. Maybe you've learned how to teach your kids
algebra. Maybe you had to relearn your algebra in order to teach your kids, but you know what I'm saying. What are some things that you have learned this year? For instance, for me, I basically went from being kind of putting things online for my part-time fair trade business that I work for, but I've gone from that to really learning how to use Shopify. So what are some things that you have learned? And think about the ways that you can carry those things over in the rest of the year. This does not mean the first 6 months have been a total waste. You can say, hey, I've learned these new skills. Hey, I've developed these new talents that I didn't know that I had. Or maybe you said, I knew I could do this, but it wasn't until this year that I discovered that's really a strength of mine. The fifth way to still recapture or take advantage of this year and prepare for next year is to think about, what do I want to carry from this year into next year? And I know you're going to say, not the pandemic, but what are the lessons you have learned? What are the things that you have overcome? What are the fears that you have developed or left behind? What are those things that you really want to take with you? And what do you want to leave in 2020? There is still time to think about that. There's still time to say, okay, these are the things that I want to take with me. These are the things I want to leave behind. And when you do your vision board for 2021, keep all of those things in mind. What do you want to carry with you into 2021? Think about how you can take advantage of all the things in this year and what you can use next year. So should you write off 2020? I don't think so. We still have 6 months. There are things that we can accomplish. There are things that we can celebrate. There are things that we can carry on into the new year. Sure, there's been a lot of disappointments and there's been a lot of learning that has happened. Things that we've learned about ourselves that we don't like. Lots of things have come up in this year, but let's not write it off yet. Let's take the next 6 months and do our best in terms of reinventing ourselves. And let me tell you, can't tell you how many times I watch YouTube videos and I realize I haven't given them a thumbs up, I haven't subscribed, I haven't commented. Please, you do not know as a YouTube creator how that helps us for not just to watch through the video, but also to have some interaction, whether it's comments, thumbs up. You can even like my comment. That's helpful too. Please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not done so already. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a great rest of 2020.